we are going to create this lovely rose, something which my daughter had made a couple of years back, and it's fairly old, about 7 years old, and we are going to make this right now. So I'm going to make it in cold. For those who are not familiar with cold porcelain, I have many students who are just working with gum paste. So you can either do it with gum paste or with cold porcelain. There are some pros and cons to it. Working with that would probably know it. Okay, if you're working it with this, then it's going to be very, very fragile, and if it's with cold porcelain, then you're good to go. Okay, so before actually I start on showing you, let's see the tool. Okay, so I went a step ahead thinking I'm on to rolling, but I have to actually introduce you to the tools. So let's see what you need for your tools, your basic tools. You'll need pliers. These are the cutters to cut the wires. Okay, pliers, and then you'll need the rolling pin. Okay, it can be non-stick, whatever is comfortable for you, what's good, whatever you have. Even a wooden one would work, but just make sure that it doesn't stick onto your surface. Okay, now a ball tool. This is a tool, and that's a medium size. And there's another tiny one. Okay, there are two different sizes. This is, I hope you can see, that's a little bit larger than this side. Okay, and then this is just a needle tool. Have this is, you can make just attached two needles to that. Okay, and then these are my favorite tools. The toothpick, these are the two toothpicks, and I prefer the wooden one than the plastic one. Okay, and then this one is just a tack pin. You can use whatever needle point you have. This is just to sort of get your dirt out of the paste, because working with gum paste and cold porcelain, it attracts any little dust particles around. Okay, I like to use the painter's palette just to lift off the pieces, and you'll see how I use that. You do need fine scissors, so pointy, very fine, and then the curved scissors. You can use the straight ones. And when I come to doing the rose, when I use this, I'll talk about why this is important. Okay, so other than that, if you want a ruler just to do your measurements, I keep one on the side. This is my dusting pouch. It's got cornstarch in it. If you're working with use cornstarch. If you're using cold porcelain, then you use talcum powder. You could even use the cornstarch. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. Then you need Nivea cream. Okay, the cream I use to just and most of this. If you're using gum paste, then you want to use vegetable shortening. You need the glue, and that is just white glue, any glue you have around. If you're using gum paste, again, you just use alcohol. Okay, alcohol, gin, any clear alcohol can be used for that purposes. This is just a chopping board, a mat, and I've put a dark color so that you can see what I'm doing. When I'm doing my leaves, I'll change a mat, which is a rolling board, but right now I'm going to use this. You could use anything you have. And then this is a thick foam. Okay, So again, you can use whatever you have. Even a mouse pad works well. The higher the thickness, okay, it does help to give more movement to your work. All right, so that was with the tools. So let's get the cutters you need. So I have the 3 sizes. Okay, so these are, we are going to do a quick rose, and today I'm going to teach you how to do a rose with and you can get it much more easier, and you can do it faster than the traditional way of doing rose, which is quite intense. Okay, so 3 sizes. That's what it's got, 5 petals, so you don't cut your petals individually. We're going to cut all of them together, so that makes it a little bit faster. So that's for your rose. Then I have the calyx cutters. You need different sizes, right? So that's a large one, medium, and that. So depending on what size you're making, again, you want to cutters. And then the leaf cutters, again, these are the rose cutters I have. You could use, again, a generic leaf, and you can use a scissors, a serrated scissors, you know, the pinking shears you have with the zigzag on it. You could use that to cut around the edge to get free effect. If you don't have that, you could even use just a knife or a pin and cut over the edges, and that I'll probably talk when we do this leaf. Okay, so I think we're all set. Let me just think. Yeah. Okay, and we need wires and tape. Now, what I like to use is the floral tape cut in half width. So normal size, I do size. This is the normal width, and I only use that when I have to build up my flowers. But when you want to do finer work, I use half width. Okay, so I've cut that in. This is a quarter width. Okay, so when you want to do the leaves, then I prefer to use the quarter width. Okay, then you need the wires. All right, so this is 18 gauge wire. You could use 18, 20, whatever. The only thing you have to is that it should be strong. It always becomes heavy as you build up the petals and put everything on. So you don't want it to fall over. So this is 18 gauge I'm using for today. And for your leaves, finer wire. Okay, so this is 26 gauge. All of these, and you don't need to have them too long. It depends on how big or how long your bouquet is going to be. Okay, so all set with the tools and equipment right now. So let's prepare the wires. All right, so for my rosebud, now roses cannot be done the same day you want them. If you want a base with the dough on it, so the cold porcelain, you could use a styrofoam if you want to, but you have to prepare the base. So before preparing the base, you need to prepare the wire. Now you see this one is darker than the other one. This is a paper covered wire, and this is a taped wire which I have prepared. So what you want to do is you take your half width. Okay, you want to stretch that, because as you stretch it, it activates its glue. Like that. stick it on, and then you twist. You twist and pull this tape at an angle. The more angle it is at, the finer your taping will be. And you've got to hold tight with your thumb and your finger. Okay? Now, if you haven't done a good job with the taping part, then what happens is that the paper will come off, and you won't be able to attach either the gum paste or the cold porcelain at all. Okay, so once you've done that tape, I like to just twist it one more time so that it's all stuck together. Okay, and then for the rose bud, we're going to make an open hook. Okay, so what that means is you're going to take your pliers and make a hook. Make sure you don't the shape of the wire. Okay, don't worry if the paper comes off. And can you see that? I don't know whether you can see that or not, but I'll try to hold it close if you can see. There is a tiny little hole in that. It's not tightly closed. Okay, you do title hold. See that? Okay, so that's how you want to prepare your base. So I'll do that once again. Okay, my wires are prepared for the leaf. Let's prepare the wires. I have already taped the 3. I'm going to do. Okay, you want to stretch this, activate the glue at an angle, twist and turn. Okay, make sure you're really holding it tight with your thumb and your finger, holding this tape at an angle, and I can tear it off. When you tear it off, actually the tape will stick really well and it won't come off. Okay, so I'll do another one. Okay. All right. So these are my wires for my leaves. Okay. Now put that aside for now, and we'll go on to making the bud. So the base, actually, bud or the half rose or the full rose, whatever you want to make, you have to prepare these bases in advance. Whether you're doing it in gum paste or in cold porcelain, it really doesn't matter, but you do have to make them well in advance, and I would recommend you making them at least a week in advance so that it's really hardened. Okay, now there's a advantage using cold porcelain is that cold porcelain shrinks. Okay, so you have to keep the shrinkage in consideration. And then the other aspect or the characteristic of porcelain is that it doesn't dry the way you've left it. It buckles. Okay, and that means that if I lay a flat piece in cold porcelain, and when it dries, it loses its shape. Okay, but that is actually when you make flowers, because it makes your flowers look natural, right? So doesn't really matter. But with the sugar, your gum paste will dry the way you've left it. All right. So I'm just going to show you how to make one base, and I have the others ready. Size you need to make. You've got to choose your cutters, right? You can use whatever size you have, but this is how you want to measure it. All right. Now, because this was made with cold porcelain, I have a little bit of shrinkage, and it's a bare shrinkage. I've put a little red black dot there, and that's the tip. So I don't know. I don't think you can see that clearly on the camera, but I can see that it is about 10% of shrinkage. Okay. So what's the size you need to make? The size you need to make this stitch like that. It should be the size of one full petal. Okay. Or if you want to make it a little bit smaller, you can go 3/4 of a size. Okay. Nothing shorter than that. Now this is my smallest cutter, so you have to measure it to the smallest cutter. Okay. So let's make the base, and what you do is just take eyeball a size of little of paste. Now I hope you know the good rules for working with gum paste or cold porcelain. You have to knead the paste before you can get going with whatever you're doing. Okay, so turn it into a round ball, and with your fingers you taper it. What suits you? If you prefer doing it like that on the mat, you could do that. Okay, see that? The key to this base is a point. Very important. Okay, I think that's good enough. And then I'm going to take my glue. Now using too much of glue is not good either for gum paste or for cold porcelain. You have to apply glue till there. Okay. And then you insert that at least about, when I'm inserting it, I can feel the wire go through. Okay. So with the feel, about 2/3 up. Now the next important point is that you pinch the base. You have to pinch the base. If you don't pinch the base, when it dries and you attach the petals, you'll find that you'll around the wire. Okay. All right. So I told you my favorite tool is the toothpick, because our fingers can't get into that area, right? Our fingers are too wide. So, and then if you've distorted the shape, you just want to shape that. All right. So that's my base, and I'm going to let it dry for at least a week to begin with. Now, what you could do is you could even, if you could use a styrofoam to do that instead of the actual paste, and you can start working on it. Okay, so we are done a base. Let's do now the bud. Made 2 sets of it for you. Okay, if you see, that's the closed bud. This is another closed bud I have made. Okay, so we're going to color this at the end. So I've prepared, and then that's the half open rose. Okay, so we're going to make that as well. And then that's the rose we're going to make. Okay. Now, for those who are working with cold porcelain, can you see a difference here when I'm holding both the roses together? One is translucent and one is okay. So I deliberately did that on purpose so that I can show you, because I have many questions coming in from my YouTube video that why should we add the white paint to that. So when you don't add your white gouache paint to the paste, you will get a translucent whatever you're making, your rose or leaves, whatever, but it will be a slightly transparent, okay? And it depends. So that's a paste which there's no paint in it added. All right. And this one, I have a white paint in it. So you can see the difference. Now, for those who are working with gum paste, you don't have to worry about the paint in it. Okay. So let's do the tight bud now. You do need your base. Okay. So you need your paste. And you're going to roll it out. I like to roll it fairly thin, but again, you have to remember that this paste shrinks from every way, from the thickness, the width, the height. Now, cream size cutter I'm using, and I just need one petal. Okay, and you take your scissors and cut that off. The first thing, you want to put this paste away because you don't want to waste it. Cold porcelain and gum paste, they start drying as soon as they are open to air. So I'm covering it up with a little cup. Okay, just push in the little rough edges, which sometimes you would get, sometimes you don't get them. Okay, and you take your foam, take your ball tool, and you're just going to thin out these. Okay, I like to widen the petal on the side so that it wraps around well. And as you're doing this step, it even thins out your paste. Okay, so I have a nice wide petal here. Okay, so once again, just a little bit of ruffle. I have that there. Okay, so then again, my glue on the back of my hand, because remember I told you you shouldn't use too much of glue. Okay, so you're going to apply that at a very, very thin. Okay, so that's why I never apply my glue straight onto the bases or the petals or anything unless necessary. Okay, and then you're going to place it right there, a little bit lower. See that? This up and turn. Okay, now this part I need to put glue on because you want to close that up. And you can pinch off the extra paste. And then I'm going to take my toothpick and just neaten up. Remove the bumps and the nooks and corners. Okay. And then if you like, you can just open up this little, then it makes the rose look natural. And see this got torn, so that's fine. You don't have to worry because it makes it look natural. Okay, there we go. See that? Okay, so we're done with the base, the tight bud, and I'll put it on the side. And I'm going to hang it. I have a stand here, which a wonderful student of mine just got it made for me. And it's really nice, so I'm going to use that. We're done with the tight. Now let's go on make the half open bud. I'm going to use the same bud I made right now, and I'm going to build up the second stage of the flower onto this one. Though, as I mentioned, I showed you the different stages. When you're doing an arrangement, depending on what you're using it for, if you're making an individual, just a single rose, then that's what you want to do. What I'm doing right now, just keep on building up till you have the right size, or else you stop at this stage to make it a tight bud. Okay, so for the tight bud, I already have, let me see, I did cut a piece out and put it on the side. If it's not dried enough, we'll use that. If not, then I'll roll out another piece again. Okay. There we go. So that's the medium size. It's kind of dried. Can you see this is not stretching? If it was a fresh paste, it would have stretched. So what I'm going to do is I will roll another piece. I'm going to leave it aside. And I think I'll roll another fresh piece so we can stretch the paste out. Okay. I probably need a little bit more paste. If the paste tends to stick on your hands, right now I'm not having any problems, but if you do, then you just want to put a little bit on your hands, okay? You see how thin it is? Then you take your medium-sized cutter. Okay, wiggle it just so that it loosens up the shape. take this onto the foam. Okay. And then soften the edges. Okay. Widen this as well slightly. Just move out the petals on the either side so that they don't come in your way. Okay. Now, if you don't have a foam pad, you could even use the palm hand. Okay, it's very so instead of using the pad, you could use your palm. For some flowers, I prefer to use my palm than to use my foam. Okay, it is. Now, I'll just quickly show you what we're going to do here. You see this? It's curled on one side. That actually is the beauty of the rose when it's turned, and you will see that as we color it towards the end. Okay, and you never ever want to judge your flowers before they're completely done with all the coloring. Okay, you're not going to like them doing them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a toothpick. Again, you can use wooden. This one doesn't really matter. My preference is the wooden one. Okay, you put it there, an angle, you just turn it. Now, if you're doing it with cold porcelain, you don't want to curl it too much because cold porcelain curls on its own as it is. Okay, because when you overdo it, then it's gentle curl and open because I'm using cold porcelain. Okay, so there. Okay, so this is fine. I'll take my bud and what I'm going to do is take a little bit. Oh, I forgot to close the lid for this, so it's dried out. Yeah, see? There we go. Okay, so just a little bit at the base. That's all right now is needed. Okay, you thread it. You have to keep in mind. Can you see this crease? Okay, you place it centered to the petal. All right, and then you lay it like that. And then at this point, I don't mind bottle. Very, very little glue. Okay, just one. Then I'm going to take the second one, just in a continuous manner. Okay. And then you see this has to fall almost. See that? Open this up. You have to tuck that in. Again, that's too much of glue, so take that off. And there. Okay. And that, there we go. So take the toothpick and roll over it and smooth it. All right. See that? Hmm? I'm just looking at from. I just want to check whether it's all done. Okay. Now, what I like to do is, now I will do it from my angle because I won't be able to do it like that when I'm showing you. But what I like to do is pinch at this point to make it look natural. See that? I've pinched, I don't know whether you can see that or not. There. Yeah, at that angle, pinch right there. So like that, you just want to pinch each petal, which makes it look natural on the top. Okay, so see that when you pinch it, it looks more natural. All right, I will leave this as it is now to dry, and then I'm going to add in the next petal. This is the right. So now we're on to the last stage of the bud. Now again, I am going to check. I think they are dried, so I will probably make a fresh. Okay, and then large cutter I'm going to use. Okay, that's the largest size I'm going to use for the last base. I dropped that paste. Oh, thank you. I think I need a little bit more for that now. Okay, so there. Now see, I got more rough edges on this one than I got for the other one. So what you do is you just push them in. Because that doesn't look nice. And you have to do them in once it starts drying, then it's a little bit difficult to get them pushed in. Okay, I got this one and that one, but it's an odd angle, so okay. There. Okay, so we soften the edges and then widen the petals. The same process we did with the previous layers. Okay. Now, depending on the size of flower you want, you can always add on more layers of petals as you like to increase the size of your flower. So for a smaller one, put on 2 layers. I just put one petal and then the second layer, and then I'm putting the third layer. If you really wanted a slightly larger than that, then you put 3 layers. You could even add 4 layers, but as you go higher, you have to upsize your cutter. You want a size larger. You cannot use the same size because you're building up, you're enlarging, or you do need a bigger size of cutter to go on to the next size. If you don't have different sizes, you can use the same size. Roll it out a little bit thicker and then thin it out. So as you're thinning it out, you are actually increasing the size. So you don't have to worry to get all the sizes of cutters, right? So we can just manage with what we have. Okay. Okay. Now, for this one, what I like to do is I bring it up on the edge. You see that here? Okay. And then what you want to do is in the center of the petal edge, just going to just roll your toothpick side to side. Okay. So that is going to give a little bit of curl there. If you look at, actually when you want to make beautiful flowers, you have to have a specimen in front of you, and that will help you create more lifelike flowers. Okay. Okay, and then the last one there. Okay. And what you want to do is, for this particular layer, you want to curl them both the sides. Okay. So the same thing we did with our previous layer, we're going to curl it on the left. So that was my right, and then the left. Okay. So like that. So both the sides. Once you've done that, then what you're going to do is you're going to turn it upside down. All right. Now this side will be tacky, obviously, and I like to take it in my palm at this stage. Okay. And what you're going to do is just lightly, sorry, that was a phone call. Okay, so just lightly cup each petal. Okay. Now I'll bring back my flower. I'm going to get my glue out. Just in the center. You don't want it anywhere else. And then you're going to thread that through. What you want to do for the last layer is, once you position it, remember I told you that you should put the crease to the center of the petal. So you position your flower and then turn it upside down. Okay. Now you won't be able to see it from, I want to position it for myself. Okay. So I've positioned that. Then I'm going to just apply a little bit of glue with my toothpick, because obviously my fingers are not going to go there. Okay. So when you start off, a little bit of glue on the first petal. So make sure that you've adjusted that and just stick that. You don't want to put glue at this moment, okay? So you leave one side open. You just want to glue the inside. Petal. All right. Now if I'm just going to attach the ones which are not glued on, have stuck the petals from the inside, then you can go ahead and stick the ones from the outside. Okay. So there. Okay. I'm going to take my toothpick. You're just going to go roll it over and smooth it out. All right, I'm just going to check it. See that? Now I find that this is a little bit too open. So what you want to do is you want to close it. I know this is an odd angle for me, but what you want to do is you want to close it. I'm trying to close it there. I'm going to apply some glue to help me close this even further. Okay, so push that in there. Okay. Again, as I said, that I like to give a little bit of pinch on my petals so that makes it look natural. Okay, so that's a full bloomed rose. Let me show you the other one. Okay, this is a couple of months back, porcelain, so shrunk quite a bit. And then the other one which I showed you, this was with the paint on it, paint in the paste, and this was made just a few days back. Okay, now so that's my second layer. I'm just going to check the time at what we are, so that I'm not short of time, right? Okay, so we are good with the timings. Now what I'll show you is doing the calyx on. But what I feel I want to put one more because once it shrinks, it's going to be too tiny. So let's add on one more petal to this one. I think we're good with time, so we shouldn't have any problems. So again, as I said, see how it is. If you're not happy with it, you just add on. It's a very forgiving craft. Okay. Okay, so just the rough edges. Oops. Uh-oh. I got to roll. Okay, I know there are some questions coming in. With this, unfortunately, we cannot enlarge this how it is. And this is my first time using this platform. So that's all we can do. So I'm so sorry about that if you cannot see well, but we'll try to see what we can for the next webinar for sure. Okay. Okay, so there was a question with how many per layer. The first bud, there was okay. Then after that, you're using 5 petals per layer. Now, today we're going, this is a quick rose. So you don't want to make it complicated for you. This is the easiest way to create a rose. Okay, so 5 petals is more than enough. If you want a larger one and if you have 7 petals, then you want to go, after you've done this layer, once I do this, the next step, if you want to enlarge it, you want to use 7. Okay, so you can go from 5 to 7 to 9 to 11. Okay, I hope that's, so right now it's just 5 petals per layer. So this is my 4th layer, right? Technically, counting the first single petal added on. Okay, so I'm just adding that little ruffle on the edge, on the center of the petal, and then we'll do the same process as the previous one. Okay, I'm not doing anything different. Okay, so okay, there we go. Now for the 7 and the 9, you do get those kind of cutters. I don't own. So what you could do is you can actually separate the petals and then attach them. Okay, when I make my larger flowers, because the flower gets heavy, right? As you add on the petals, it gets heavier. And what you can do is that, as I said, I don't own more than 5 petals. I know that you do get a 9 petal one, but when you add on more, you have to build your petals on wires. And it's the same process when I do the leaves. You'll be able to see how that's done. It's the same process whether you're doing a leaf or, and then you attach them individually. Okay, so I hope I've made myself clear. Okay, so let's add on the last one. I was finding this too small. Why? It'll look very, that's the reason why I added that on. Okay, so okay, turn it upside down. Okay, so the first petal, once you've adjusted that, yeah, I'm fine. There. Oh, I forgot to put glue here. So, see, you can tell, you can figure out where you went wrong, what you forgot. That's fine. Okay. Okay, so let's get the toothpick out. Okay, so I think, see that? Looks much more fuller, doesn't it? Okay, so I think I'll leave this at there. Not going to do much. If you want, you can open this up a little bit if you like. But because, as I mentioned, that I'm doing it in cold porcelain, I don't really mess around too much with my curling, because as it is, when it dries, it curls even further. Okay. All right. Now, at this point, you cannot dry your rose like that. See that this is opening up? That's what's going to happen. Okay. So what you do is you have to hang it upside down. Okay. If you have a stand, you could do so. If not, you can hang it over your table or something like that. Okay. So let's get on with the calyx now. Okay. So we're done with the flowers. We'll do the calyx. Green paste. Use powder colors, gel colors, food colors, acrylic poster paints for cold porcelain. Anything but oil. Okay, you can use oil, but it's going to dry out fast. I think I'll need some more. Okay. So, all right. Now I'm going to use this cutter. I think I'll use the larger one because I forgot I included more size, right? I wasn't happy with the size of my flower. So we'll use the largest one. Now calyx is the green part on the flower. Okay. Now, here comes my curled scissors, okay, because it's got this shape. See that? It's curled. I like to use that. Before cutting the hair, you're just going to enlarge it and softness. So from side on both the sides, you're just going to move your ball tool, make it softer. All right, and then you're going to widen up this part. Now see, I'm going to show you the calyx on this one. And now this is fairly old one, so it's got a few broken pieces, but you can see that well on this one. You see how it is. Hold on a bit. See this, I don't know, this part is a little bit wider. Okay, this area is a little bit wider than what the shape of the cutter comes in. So you have to manipulate with that, and that's how you just widen it there. Okay, make wider there. If you want, you can lengthen the wider. It looks shorter, right? If you can't get it there. So you take your scissors and you snip off right on the edge. You can have anything from 1 cut or 2 cuts. You just have to look at your roses. There's so many species. So each species has got its own characteristics. Okay, have you noticed little hair on the calyx? That's what we're doing here. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my smaller ball tool, and then you're going to curl that right in the center part. Just push this open a little bit because otherwise it doesn't work. See that? And then once that's done, down, and again we're going to just, now see this is sticking on. I will use my powder a little bit. You don't want to use, I don't like to use a lot of dusting powder, like the paste. Okay. Now, further to that, I like to cut this inside just to get that shape, okay? Because I personally don't like the shape of the cutter I have. So just to make it more realistic. If you have a cutter which is a beautiful shape and looks much more complex, you don't need to go on to this step. Okay, so I'll bring back my flower, my rose in fact, right? And then a bit lightly like that. Nothing's going to happen there. Again, a little bit of glue. Just okay. And then what you want to do is you get further ahead for the calyx. Usually when it's a full bloomed flower, apart. Over, sorry, not apart, but over. Okay, so there. And then the sepals, so that's the sepal, okay? That sits right in between the petal. So it's, now I'm going to turn down so that I can see well. See that? Okay. Then you just want to attach that. There. You don't have to do much with this one. Just neaten up. And then straighten that up, and then you can fold these over. Okay. If that opens up, you just stick that right, because I'm pulling it apart, so it's coming back with it. I think the glue it needs a little bit of glue there. Okay, so that's 6. All right. Now, a rose is only complete when it has the hip. So we're going to attach the hip. I'll show you what the hip is. So the white, right? That's the hip. So we're going to attach that. So right now I'm going to do that like that. Then take a little bit of glue. Sorry, the paste. I meant the paste. Right? Ball. Just taper it a little bit so it shapes like a teardrop. Okay? And then you take your ball tool. It doesn't really matter which side, but on the curled part. And you push that in just so that you get that shape for flower, and it will swell. Okay? Little bit of glue right there. And then you're going to remove the extra paste which gets stuck. Usually that happens all the time at this point. Take that. Okay. And then just stick it to the base. Now I like to twist it so that you get a nice shape, and you can pull this down like that. So remove the extra. Okay, and then I take my toothpick and I blend it to my wire. Okay, and then here you just want to blend it with the calyx. You just shape it a more natural shape. As I said, if you have the specimen in front of you, it really helps. Okay, so again, just smooth it out to make it look more natural. And there, with our calyx. And okay, so you see how this is opening up because it's still not dried. So you want to place it upside down. Okay, so let's do the leaves. I have the leaves prepared here. Now for a rose, if you know the rose leaf stem is usually built like that. Okay, it's got a large leaf, then the medium size underneath, and then the smaller size right under that. Okay, so to make them, I've already made my leaves, but I'm going to show you how to make the leaves here. So I'll just how to make one leaf, and then that's how to make your other leaves. Okay, so they'll be usually like that. All right. Okay, so now as I said that for the leaves, I like to use not this board, but my board with a groove. Okay, so this is just a silicone mat so that my board doesn't move. You take your paste, put it on the grooves. See these grooves? It's got a dent in the board, so it helps me get a groove in which I'm going to insert. Okay, see that? Yeah. I'm going to do a large one so you can see. And I actually like, because it's a white cutter, it's hard for me to see as well. I have put a marking just for my knowledge that that's the top place. So when it's down, I know that I'm aligning it correctly. Okay, so there. Wiggle that out. I said you can use any leaf cutters, okay? Whatever is available. Now because this is stuck, this is a plunger cutter, so I can remove that. Okay. Now, to insert, you remember we prepared those wires? So you take that and then you insert that right in the groove, say about there. Sometimes the wire doesn't go through, so you just have to play around and see what works well. Okay, there. See that? Okay, so you don't see the wire on any of the sides. All right. It's the same cutter because it's got the vein. If you don't have this, you can use a separate veiner. Okay, and then you want to lay it down like that, and you use a sponge or your fingers, whatever you are comfortable with. Show you really and loosen that out. Okay, so you've got the veins on it. Again, you just want to soften that, right? And then what you want to do is you want to reinforce the central vein. All right. And then pinch on the top and pinch at the, okay. And force the central vein by just squeezing it and then opening it up. Now, how do you dry it? I like to dry it on a dimpled foam. Okay, it's got grooves in it and it's got those creases. So if you have something like this is how you're going to dry it, and it dries naturally. If you don't have that, then you can use a bubble wrap or foil. You just lightly crumple your foil and you can use that. Okay, so these are our leaves. So we're done with all the components of flowers. What we'll do is I'll put my and then we'll get on with the coloring part of it. Okay, so I'll just clear my space up here because I need there's a lot of powder on, right? So you want to actually cover your area or your space with some paper towels. You don't want anything which will get the colors on. Okay, now we'll color the rose first. So I've got my dishes there and I'm going to make a pink rose. I don't ever like to actually put on one color. I like to put on, this is a light pink. It's a Cosmos pink actually. That's the right name of the color I am using. And then this is dusky pink. Okay, you don't need so much, but I like a little bit. But the key to getting natural flowers is actually, sorry about that, I'm just having a little bit of, so that's a dusky pink. I'm actually, and then that's Cosmos, and that is Burgundy. Okay. Now these will have particles, so you want to add this away on the side. I'm going to get out my brushes. Now you want to have a variety of brushes, okay? Now these are the brushes with just a couple of days back, so I'm just getting out the brushes which I have used for the particular flower. You do not want to mix the brushes, okay? So there, and I'm going to use that as well. Okay, so let's get my flower, and I'm going to actually color these ones which I've previously made, okay? Because it's nice to color when, I hope you can see. I'm going to actually, you know what, we're going to adjust the camera and we take it a little bit back so you can see it more clearly. Okay. I think that should be fine. Okay, I hope everyone can see. Okay, so now there's one thing which I wanted to mention, that when you are doing, I put on on a full bloomed flower. When you're putting it on a bud, a tight bud, because it's still growing, it hasn't opened up as much. So you want to close it up and make your calyx. Okay, that's for your tight bud. When you do your calyx for your half open, it slowly opens up. See that? So I've opened it slightly more, and then that's how you want to do your calyx for the full bloomed, that these sepals are. Okay, so let's see. Let's color this up. Start with a lighter color, okay? And I like to use this dish because I can shake that off. Okay. I'm using a round brush, so it gives an overall color. You don't want to use too much. Okay, just make it look natural. And these are powder colors for porcelain or gum paste. Any non-toxic powder colors are okay. I don't like to use paints. Now this part I don't think I can show you for me. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just putting in the color right in the center. Okay. So I've started off with just the lighter pink, and then I'm going to go on to the next shade, which will be the darker one, to give it highlight. Okay. Now if you tend to add on color when your paste is quite damp, like the fresh flower we made right now, what would happen is that we'll get a blotchy color effect, and some of the powder, because we're working with powder, right? So it'll just stick on to the dampness petal. Okay. Blow off the excess. All right. And then I'm going to use the dusky pink. Just make sure that you don't get any lumps. I'm going to move this out of the way. I'll just pass it on, actually. And this, I'm just going to do it on the top, on the edges. That's all. Only on the edges, no more. See that? I don't know whether it or not, but is that better? Yeah. Now once this whole arrangement is done, I'll take a nice photograph and then post it on my website so you can have a whole. Okay, just the center to highlight that. Okay. And then the edges. All right. And then the last thing you need is a burgundy touch. So basically, it's a very, very dark color. And what you're going to do is you're going to use the flat side of the brush. And I'm just going to go on the edge. I'm not doing anything more, but just on the edges. Okay, so it makes it look a little bit more. So just on the edges. See, I'm not even taking any more colors. What's that question? Color rose before adding. Yes, it is. It is better to do the color, to add color before the calyx. Yes, for sure. But again, with time, if you are in a hurry, if you're time constrained, then you can do that. And usually when I do my bouquets or my flower arrangements, because it's very, very time consuming, what I now that I finish everything and add on the color as I'm doing right now. But when you're adding your color, when you've already added the calyx, you just have to make sure to be careful not to get a color on the green. And usually you will be fine with that. Okay. So that's my rose, and that's the white one which we just prepared. Okay. All right. So let me see. Let me get it close and see whether you can see that. It's a webcam, so I don't think it's so. When I get it close up, okay. But what we'll do is, I will prepare a video with my normal higher resolution camera, it in the video library, so you can see closer. Okay, so that's the view of the flower. All right. Okay, so let's color the leaves, and then I'll show that. Okay, so for the leaves, you need a burgundy and moss green, and then you need a darker green, which is foliage green. I use this shade color because that's the one which I use mostly for all my leaves. My brushes. Okay. Now, usually the leaves are lighter on the back, and so are the calyxes. Okay, we haven't colored the calyx. I'm going to color it because I've got out the green right now. So we'll have to color the calyx. Okay, so that's my front and my back. Okay, that's how you color all the leaves. I'm just going to show you one. Now, I'm doing the others right now. I don't mind using the same brush. If I were to do the other leaves as well, then you don't want to do it with the same brush. Okay, this is a darker shade, which is the moss green. And then you want to highlight that. Shake this off. I'm going to do the back because the backs are lighter, remember? Okay. And with the burgundy, roses, the leaves for the roses have a burgundy touch on the edge, on the tip, on the side, and even on the front. Okay, you can add a little bit of burgundy at the back because some of the leaves, they do have a little bit of burgundy. Okay, so that's my rose leaf. Okay, so we're done with the leaves and we'll color the calyx. Okay, now the same thing, I brush, I'll get my other brush for the light green because you don't want to. Now for the calyx, I avoid putting color in the inside because the inside of the calyx is usually light side. Okay, remember, you got to be careful. That's what I mentioned before. So there. And if you get a little bit of green on the flower, just blow it off, and wherever the powder falls, don't worry about that because it looks, if you look at the rose closely, it's got green shades on each of its petals. Again, the foliage green, just a little bit on there. Okay, there. Once again, and the burgundy are just on the tips and the edges. Okay. Okay. So there we are. All right. We are all at 5:50. We just have 10 minutes. So let's build it up. We were to take the question and answers towards the end, but we have answered a few of your questions in the whole session. But let's put these together. Okay. I'll just pass this out. There we go. Okay. I'll get my leaves out. Now I already have these just to show you how to attach them on, but I am going to show you how to assemble. Okay, see how they are? So you have to have a variety of sizes as you go on. Now, since we've colored only one, we will build this up, but it's not going to have the color on, so that's fine. But the purpose of doing this is to show you how to attach them together. I take my quarter length tape. Okay, this is a quarter length. You take the largest leaf. Okay, the configuration is going to be like that. The larger leaf, then the medium, and then the smaller there. Okay, rose leaf branch has got 3 leaves as a set, always. Okay, so the same thing as we wired our taped our wire, you're going to attach it right at the base there. You're going to attach tape right at the base of the leaf. You go a little bit down, okay, and then you're going to take your medium leaves. What you're going to do, you're just going to bend it at 90 degrees, almost at 90, not exactly, but then let me just tighten it up. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to attach that. See that? Going to fold that there. Okay, tape it like that. Then you're going to go a little bit, and then you're going to attach the tinier ones. Okay, let me just bend that. Okay, I think this one is a little bit the wrong spot, so you don't want too big a branch, right? Just that much there. Okay, so is I like to take it in between the wires once or twice just to secure the wires in place. Otherwise, sometimes what happens is that the rotating on the wire. If your tape breaks like that, that's a problem. Okay, so that was a 5-leaf set, and then the other ones are just 3. Okay, see that? Okay, so let's attach that, just this one. Okay, now I would prefer to go on to a wider tape, which is the half width. I'm still not onto the full width. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach one here and then there. Okay. So I like to start off a little bit lower, going upwards. And if you cannot get that straight, you can use the help of your pliers. Okay, see that? Again, see, I'm taking the tape in between so that it secures well. And then I'm just going to on the other side. So I want to attach that right there. Okay, a little bit lower. Not at you just go and tape it down a little bit further till it comes to the right spot you want to work at. Okay, so again in between, You saw that? It just broke. So that happens. You don't have to worry about it because you want to make it look natural. Okay? So, all right. Now you can shape your leaves the way you want them to be. Okay, I'm looking at it from my angle and trying to see how it looks. See that? Now, for this, I've just had shorter wires so that it's much more easier for me to show you, because if I had longer wires, then I would have to go a little bit further back and you wouldn't be able to see it. But when you're doing a full length flower, you can have your wires a little longer. Okay, now once you've prepared components for the arrangement, then you can arrange it as you like. Now what I have done is I had used a flower vase. It's a short one. And see that? I put that like that. So once you have attached them like this, then you just build on and add on your branches and your roses and your rose buds, and then put it in an arrangement. Okay? So for this particular one, put this on first and then add the next one. It depends whichever way you want it. If you want a single individual rose, you just want to make it like that. Okay, so we're done with the webinar. If there are question and answers, let me just get through